Hello everybody, this is Lisanne Miller with W, Cushing and Company. We hope you are well and that you are staying safe during this time. Today, though, it's Third Thursday with Lisanne, and we are going to talk about first the Frost Oriental, and then we're going to talk about broken glass. No, it's not that your husband dropped the glass and broke it. It's actually a rug pattern that uses your stash and is a fun rug to do during this time. First, I'd like to thank Rug Hooking Magazine for this opportunity and to make sure that you have the latest Rug Hooking Magazine. This is the latest one. If not, you can order it from Rug Hooking Magazine or through our Etsy shop. Great issue. Hope you enjoy it. Great reading. So, I'm also going to talk about right now the Frost Oriental. We had talked about the Frost Oriental. I've progressed on mine. You've seen it through the whole thing. So now we're going to look at it and we're going to see exactly what it looks like. As we remember, and we'll do a quick recap, this is the center cameo or center medallion. Any color that is in here, in this center, gets moved out all the way to the end of the rug. So once you hook your center medallion and you like your colors, then you just play with them and move them out. So here we have the center all hooked. I know everybody thought that plaid I picked wasn't going to work, but it works perfectly. There it is hooked. We used it as a defining line around the center cameo, and then we took the mauve and the grays and the plums and we used it in here. All these colors are in here. Then we took this blue-gray that looks green on some people's screens, and we used that here with the dancing shamrocks with the same color from our center. Our squares, which are easily done, and this is our Biddeford pool. This right here is in the center of the square. We use this gray out here. Then our next border is gray, and as you progress, and if you've seen this as it progressed, one time it looked very mauvey, very rosy, but as you move out into the borders, the colors that you choose do create a different look. So now it's back to looking gray again. So here is our blue-gray, here is the mauve, gray, again that plaid, and we put the plum in here, but it's accented with the gray and the gray line. So we've kept the gray as predominant, used the rose and the eggplant as accents, and now all I have to do is finish hooking. I did finish one corner, and here is the corner. This is how the corner is drawn in, but it looks like Mickey Mouse ears. So I altered it by putting in triangles, okay? And all I did was put a triangle in, and put a triangle in, and put a triangle in. And then I just decided to take the grays and hook the grays. So this was my background, this was my dark gray, this was a dyed piece, and then again our background. So by doing it, it doesn't really look like Mickey Mouse ears, but instead you've got a very unique corner to it. So now we'll just have to finish hooking and stay tuned and watch for posted pictures of it being done. So now we're going to go to what we're going to talk about today, which is broken glass. Okay, this is a broken glass or a mosaic pattern that comes in. We have it in many different sizes, many different shapes, from room size to this. It is a scrap rug. But traditionally, the scrap rug was done where each one of these was outlined with black or dark brown, very small cut, number 4 cut, and filled in, which does get tedious. But we've updated it a bit. We're using a nice yarn. It's got variation to it. We're using that instead for the outline, so we don't have to be as precise with our hooking. It's a little more lenient and gives it a much softer, updated look. Then you'll pick 3, 5, or 7 colors, and you actually mark them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you actually write the numbers in here. You assign a number to each of your wools, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just say they were your 5 colors, and this would be your line in between. You'd have a nice blue. You could do it with all your scraps. Every one of these pieces could be a different color. And what you do is you outline it with the yarn, and then you fill it in, and you keep filling it into the center. And when you get done with it, this is a broken glass that is completed. Okay? So here is my broken glass. I finished it on Easter Sunday. I had 5 colors, and this was the yarn that I did use. Okay? I outlined, as you can tell, it's a nice soft outline. You see it, but it's not as dated as a black or a brown. And I used 5 colors of different sea glass, and I hooked them. Now sometimes I used a lighter color, a darker color. I used what I had in my stash. And you always have a lead color. And in this case, it's the rose. And the rose color lets your eye move around the rug. There's also brown for the brown sea glass, but the rose is predominant and your eye follows it. In the case of where we had the blues, this would be the one that your eye would follow around. It doesn't have to be the darkest color or the lightest color, but it is predominant, and you make sure it's placed throughout. So after you get done, and it does use a lot of wool, it's a lot of fun, then you come around with the one row of the yarn. One row of the yarn is hooked all the way around, and you should do a second row. I haven't done my second row yet, but I'm going to show you how well this yarn hooks, and then I'll show you how we hook this border, because everybody has been asking an easy way to hook a border. This is an oval so that it stays oval, you keep the shape, and then I'm also going to go over how you know how much wool you need. So the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to put in here is my border lines, and I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to go just like this. I'm not worried about it being even. I'm not worried about it being the same on all sides. But now I've put this in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this line first, this line second, then I'm going to hook my curved line. Then I'm going to fill in each one, just like this. And I'm going to fill them in. You can see just by me using the marker and filling it in how much motion goes into this. It makes sure that your border is not packed. For those that pack, we all know who they are, and some people are now packing where they never packed before because they're hooking by themselves. And then it creates a nice border. Now, to pick the border for this rug, there's a couple of different options. We're going to go through the options. All right. This is a dark border. This is called Everything But the Kitchen Sink. It looks like an antique black when it's hooked. You see that it has all the colors in here, but for me it's a little too dark. And if you notice, when I put this color up, all of the browns show. It becomes a darker rug. So I'm going to move that here. Then there's a dark navy that has some of the colors that are in here. It's okay, but it really kind of fights the gray a little bit, but it does lighten the color of the rug. Then there's this denim, and this is deep blue sea, and then there's denim. And denim is nice. Denim is a decent choice. Again, now you start to see the lighter pieces come predominant, and the darker pieces are now receding. So if you put this down, this is lighter. If you put this one down, the rug looks darker. And then there's Old Blue. Now, Old Blue has a lot of the colors that are here, a little bit of this, the different blues, but it also has the colors that are in the yarn. I like it. It makes the rug, it appeals to the greens and the blue greens that are in here. So this is what I'm going to hook for my border. Now I want to show you what happens if we use a real stark color. Just doesn't go. So, Old Blue is what we're going to use. And I've drawn my thing in, and so now I've drawn that in. I have magically cut some wool. And we're going to come over here to the frame. Now, if your yarn is spun tight enough, you will be able to hook it just like a noodle. And if you want, and the burley spun yarn works very well. This yarn works extremely well. So I'm going to hook the yarn. So here's the yarn. It is very tight. And when I go in to hook with it, okay, it hooks just like a noodle. It hooks like a number 6 cut. And this is a number 6 cut. Some of it is a number 4 cut. I used a lot of my leftovers that I had, and if it was already cut, I kept it. So as I'm hooking with this, you can see, you can snug it right in next to that last row, make it look good, and there you are. But it hooks, it doesn't fray, it doesn't separate. If you're hooking with your yarn and it's fraying or separating, then you really, really need to use a different yarn. It is not spun tight enough for hooking. But you see, there it is, okay? And we can continue along with that. But now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these are cut in an 8 because I don't want to spend another week or 2 hooking the border. This is a larger size rug. So I am going to first put this line in. And as I put this in, I'm going to hook as high as I hooked my yarn, and I'll fill this in with yarn later. But I'm hooking this in first on the line. Everybody always asks, do you go inside the line, outside the line? Well, I always tell people, pick one and stick with it. But in the border, you go on the line. You want to go on the line here so that it remains uniform. And I'm going right, if you can see, I'm going right on the line. And I'm punching in and I'm pulling up and over. And I'm punching in and pulling up and over, just like that. Okay. Now I've got to put, and I should put my outside line in, so I have to move this down just a tad, like this, okay? And I'm going to put my outside line in, again in an 8. You don't want to change cuts. I was recently asked while we're doing the borders, I've been asked to do it. They for some reason thought you should jump a couple of sizes. Well, you don't need to jump a size, you keep it into the same size. You don't hook it any higher or lower, you keep it the size it should be. And the height of the loop should be as wide as as high as the noodle is wide. If this is your noodle, it should lay just like that. So you don't have to change the size of your cut, you don't have to do anything with that. So there we are. Okay, so we have that in, and we're putting that in, and it's hooked in very nicely. Again, I'm on the line. I'm not outside the line, I'm not inside the line, I'm on the line. Okay, so I'm going to come up, and I'm going to clip right here for right now. Okay. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to hook right here. Now, I'm not going to start my end right against the end of the rug. I'm going to come one off the rug, one off where I would normally start, put my loop there, and come back here. I don't want my ends right there at the end of the rug. It makes a weak point in the rug. Okay. So now I'm making the little swirls, and I'm going to come right in here and I'm going to hook the swirl just like that, and continue to hook the swirl. And I would continue to hook this line for a distance. I would probably hook it, oh, I'd say about 12, 14 inches before I stopped. I wouldn't stop right away. I'm going to leave that right there. And I'm going to pick up another noodle. And in here, now I'm going to fill it in. Okay? So I'm going to start up here. Notice I didn't start back down there. I'm going to start up here, not near the end of the rug. And I'm going to fill it in. And as I'm filling it in, I'm creating motion. It's not straight lines. We don't want the straight lines. For those that remember the video on the border, we don't want the straight lines. Straight lines create a weak point in the rug because when you fold it back, that's where the dirt can get in, and that's where a rug will wear every time. So I'm coming here, and now I'm coming back. And when you do that, the plaids, this is a texture, it is a plaid, and you're going to get different highs and lows of the texture, but you're also going to get a little bit of motion that mimics the broken glass. And that makes the border interesting. Now, what else could you put in a border? Well, suppose you did a fall rug. You could make the border outline fall leaves all the way around and hook them in one texture, but outline the leaf and then fill the leaf in, and you'll actually see the shape of the leaf. That works well. Or you could do circles. You can fill in, anything that is in the rug. If you're doing a Halloween rug, you could do little candy corns. It's endless to what you can do when you decide that this is how you're going to do your border. Now, could you use two different colors? Sure you could, but then that makes it a little heavy, a little more confusing, and you just want the border, especially on a rug that has as much motion as this does, that you really want the border to be kind of quiet, kind of there, and enhance the colors that are in the rug. And there we are. Just like that. And then the first one is filled in. You really can't tell where we started and stopped, but you can see the motion in it. It's nice. Then you can come along and do the second one. But it's also nice when you're working in the evenings or during the day. You say, I'm going to do 4, you end up doing 6, and you get this nice motion, this nice swirl that mimics it. Now, what I'm also going to go over, because I've been asked, is how do you know how much wool will cover what? Okay, here we go. This is a fat quarter, 18 by 30. Okay, so if you fold this 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what the wool will cover. If you don't pack. If you pack, then this is what it will cover. But this for 4 times, and this is for a 5, 6, 7, and 8. For a 4, if you were doing it in a 4, there's 2.5 times. You get a little bit more out of it. But for an 8, you do it 4 times, or an 8.5 as long as you don't pack. For a 9, you're going to go down. A 9 would cover about this much, which is now folded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So that's 6 times. But if you really are just hooking in the mediums from a 5 to an 8, you don't pack 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times. That's what it covers. So that's a good guide. That will let you, but always have a little bit extra just to make sure. And if you're doing a border, the other question was, how do you know how much to hook for a border? Again, we have a fat quarter. So if I fold this, the size of the border, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. This is how much of the border it would hook. So it would hook about 1/3 of the border, and you have a little bit left over for the next one. So you can judge it, but you also need to give yourself some leeway with it, and that will allow you to better judge what you need. And if you're using scraps or you're using leftovers and just say you only have so much of this color, but you want to put it in the rug, then you can know where you're going to place it based on how much it will cover. So I hope that was useful for you. Again, do it in the swirls. You put your line, then you do this line here, the snake line, then you fill in around and around. Now, why do we go from outside to in? Because you are setting the size of the shape and going in. You have less chance of packing. If you start to come from the inside and go out, you change the shape every time. You can't hit the shape every time. This is the same thing, this is the same logic you use when you hook a circle. So, I hope this has been helpful. We'll see you again on the third Thursday in May, and I will be in the dye kitchen on the third Thursday in May, because in the first part of June, my dye book, Beautiful Wool in the Kitchen with Lisanne, will be coming out through Rug Hooking Magazine. So stay tuned, and we'll be looking at over-dyeing textured wool in May. Again, thank you, be well, be safe, and keep hooking. Thanks, bye-bye.